Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Behind the Human. I'm your host, Mark Champagne, and it's my job to unpack the stories and mental fitness practices of people living at the top of their game, personally and professionally. Today we've got David Mykel on the show, who's the founder and head coach at PSYFI, a revolutionary psychology fitness company with over 30 years of experience as a high-level athlete and 25 plus years studying psychology. David has developed a unique B3 methodology, integrating brain, body, and breath training. He has worked in 50 plus countries, helping high performers optimize their physical, mental, and emotional performance. And I would say, on top of all of that, he's just a great human being, someone that I'm really proud to say that I've gotten to know a little bit better definitely over the last, let's say, 15, 16 months, where it's been a great honor, David, to sit on your board of directors, and then which has also led to us really co-conspiring to create something pretty magical for those high performance CEOs out there. So stay tuned for more on that. Welcome to the show, brother. Long time coming.
I know, Mark. It's so great to be here, man. It's such a honor to be part of your show, to be able to talk to your audience, and of course to have you on the board. And yes, this little thing that we're creating that people will know more about in the coming months. Super stoked to be here, man.
Let's do it. So if I let go of all the bios and the work and all of that and just open the show like we always do with the question of who are you? How would you answer that one today?
Ooh, that's a great question, because I actually just posed that question to my network and my clients last week. So for me, I'm a truth seeker. And that's what it really comes down to, man. I'm a truth seeker and a journeyman. I'm in this life to experience every fabric, every ounce, every inch that I possibly can. And then I'm here to impact other people's lives and the lessons and wisdom that I pick up along the way.
So I love that, truth seeker. So what does that entail for you? And again, like a question like who are you, I really do think evolves over time. So I it'd be interesting if I would have asked you this, 20 years ago. I'm sure it would have been a bit different. But right now, when you come to as a truth seeker, like what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think this is something, Mark, that I know you and I both share, because there are just some fundamental truths in the universe, right? And then we break it down to our fields of psychology and fitness. There are fundamental truths in there as well. Now, there's a lot of garbage. There's a lot of flash in the pan, Instagram model stuff that pops up and it's here and it's gone. But the truth is always going to be the truth. It makes me think
Yeah.
of, there's one of these anecdotes they talk about, in any interaction with someone, there's three sides, right? There's your side, there's their side, and there's the truth. And so for me, I've spent literally the last 15 years of my life doing heavily deep, dark, rabbit hole personal development on myself in order to find out what some of those truths are for me, of like what my impact is going to be, why I'm put on this earth, who I'm supposed to help, why I've gone through the things that I've gone through, like the trials, the tribulations, the pain, the pressure. And it all comes down to, like, I'm seeking these morsels of truth that I believe the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, like puts out there waiting for us. And to get those and then bring them into our spaces and then explain them and relate them in ways that high performers can actually use tactically on a daily basis, right? Because some of the existential stuff that's out there, these gurus are talking about, I was having this conversation actually in a men's group that I lead last night. It's awesome, but like, how do you apply it? And
Totally.
we have a thing called, these things called sci-fi isms at sci-fi, and they're like these little wisdom chunks that we put in. And one of them is knowing gets you nothing.
Yeah.
You can know all the, like all these books, like you could have all these books memorized, right? But knowledge is not power, knowledge is potential power. So unless you do something with it, you don't if you don't take action on things, your life doesn't change, your impact doesn't happen. So for me, it's like finding these truth seeking morsels of wisdom and then boil them down into simple scientifically based tools that we can use on a daily basis. And typically our tools are usually 2-minute tools.
Yeah, because they work. I mean, they're simple and I don't wanna say simple. Simple is maybe not the right word, but, when you said two-minute tools, I guess it's accessible is the big one. I think something that you and I probably really resonate with is like there's so much available to us when it comes to resetting our mind, slowing down our mind, like getting us to a place where you can really see a lot of these truths, right? And actually still the mind and body enough to get to that place. There are so many tools to do that that are available really to anyone, no matter where they're at in their life, personally and professionally. I just find a lot of people don't know of them. And then if they do, I think to your point, it's like, how do you actually integrate that in a way that isn't like massively daunting where it's like, yeah, you need to get up 2 hours early and, cold plunge and then jump in the sauna and journal and run around the block and then meditate for an hour and a half. I mean, all things that are great, I think, for everyone. But, if you're starting at zero, like that's a pretty daunting task.
Yeah, especially, you and I both work with high performers. We've been high performers our whole lives. High performers already have a full plate. I mean, and full
Yeah.
is maybe being generous. It's probably overflowing most likely. And so to sit there and say, "Hey, listen, you want to optimize? Cool. We're going to put 3 hours extra on your plate." And any normal high performer just goes, "I don't know where the hell I'm going to fit that." Right? So
Yeah.
this is why I started sci-fi. And I know we'll get into it. Part of my own journey was I was a high performer. I got super burnout, struggled with suicidal depression despite being the top of my career. And everything that was out there was either too complicated, it took too long, or it didn't resonate with me as a high performing male. And so that's why I started kind of tooling with all the experience that I had and then started creating systems and frameworks that go, oh, wait, I can do this in like 2 minutes. This can work. Like, and if I do that in 2 minutes, I get like 30 minutes back. Whoa. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Now
Let's
we're
try to,
talking.
yeah, let's bottle that baby and let's get going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let's back it up though, because I think it is really important to share some of your backstory and to provide context around, where you're coming from. And I thought maybe we could define at least the job that you had as a litigation psychologist. Like, first of all, how did you get involved in that, and what exactly is a role like a litigation psychologist?
Yeah, I kind of make the joke is like I went from one career where it seems like I made it up to another career where it seems like I made it up. And so litigation psychology, I did not make up. It was around since the 70s. I was going to graduate school, and thank God uh, the head of the program, who was also my mentor, she's like, "Hey, I just read this article on litigation psychology, and I think you would enjoy it." And I remember reading it, Mark, and it literally changed the trajectory of my life for the next like 13, 15 years. And I just fell in love with it. And so thankfully, this incredible woman, one of the OGs in jury consulting, was located in the same town, like Old Town Alexandria, right outside of DC. And I begged her, literally begged her. Like she even said it. She goes, "The only reason I'm giving you this internship is because you won't leave me alone. And I fear that if I don't say yes, you're gonna keep bugging me." And so Margie
Yeah.
Fargo, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I started working with her and I got to work on these incredible cases, like stuff that you would hear about in the news. We were actually, I think it's still on Netflix. We were on a Netflix documentary as part of
Oh
this.
wow.
So I got to do all these incredible cases with her. And then eventually I worked with, three other firms throughout my career over 13 years. But again, what litigation psychology is kind of what I do now. And I've been reading humans my whole life. And so
Mhm.
in litigation, the goal is to have the most kind of even playing field, non-biased jury that you can see on any case, because we know all of us have our own experiences. We all have
Yeah.
inherent biases. So my job was to develop questions, interview these people, voir dire, jury selection, case strategy, and figure out how do we get the best jury that's going to support our case. And then further along my career, what I got really good at and became known for was case strategy, boiling down these super complicated things, like talking about intellectual property in the banking industry. And I worked in so many amazing cases. It was like so much fun to learn from the best experts in the world. But then literally to distill this stuff down to stuff that anyone could understand and appreciate, and therefore hopefully vote for our side of the case, which turned
Mm,
into one of our founding principles at PSYFI, which is we simplify the science, right?
yeah.
There's so much stuff out there, so much stuff on the internet, so many books, so many podcasts, people get overwhelmed. What if you found someone that you can trust, that understands you, and that boils it down so you can actually understand it in a few minutes. So this was the cool part, is I did that for 13 years in litigation, and I was doing what I do now. I just didn't realize it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So help me, because from my understanding, you like that career was thriving for you. I mean, you were in New York City. You at one point, it sounded like you were on the path of actually taking over the company that you're working for. So help me understand how you go from that, and even the way you speak about the field. It sounds like it really lit you up, and you were doing quite well. How do you go from that to suicidal depressive thoughts and essentially being fired from your role?
Yeah, great question. So I worked for three different consulting companies in my career, and each one, my first one, I rose to the level of director. The second one, I was a senior consultant at, and I was leading a division. And then the third one I was working at, which is the one you're referring to, um, I was I was hired in order to take over a multi-million-dollar company, and
Mhm.
that was the goal, is that my boss hired me to be a consultant just like she was, but that she wanted to kind of step down and put me in the role of like CEO. So I had the corner office in New York City. I will be honest with you, I loved every minute of my career up until the last year and a half. The last
Mm.
year and a half is where a lot of this stuff came in, and which gave birth to PSYFI. But yeah, I mean, I was working with some of the foremost experts in the world on random subjects like car manufacturing design, condom design, intellectual property regarding the banking, the fallout in 2008, like all this crazy stuff. So as a learner, I loved
Yeah,
it because I was learning
no
for I was
kidding.
like literally talking to the smartest people in the world about their subjects. I have like double PhDs, and then I'm getting to talk with them and learn all this crazy stuff that I would never want to. And I was traveling all over the US, like staying in the most beautiful places, working with some of the smartest people in the industry, in litigation as well, making a ton of money. I had everything. I had the car, the apartment, the girl, the bank account, the title. I had this, the six-figure salary. I had the corner office in New York City, which, growing up, I mean, I grew up in a poor immigrant ghetto neighborhood in New York. So to go from literally rags to riches, you would think I did it. I made it.
Yeah.
Like everything that society told me that I needed to be happy, here I am. Right. I finally did it. And there was just something I couldn't explain, where I was hating everything about my life. And granted, this is a person who's has a family that loves him, had a girlfriend that loves him, was traveling all over the world, had this great job, like super respected in their field, well known, making all the money, like huge trajectory. And there was just something missing. And what, in hindsight now, what I come to realize is that I wasn't making the impact that I was put on the earth to do. And this goes back to the truth seeking, is that I had quit my career previously for about 3 years. I was doing freelance stuff and traveling the world. After kind of had the same come to Jesus moment, literally come to Jesus moment, when I was living in Dallas, Texas. And I stepped away, and it was the weirdest thing because nobody could understand it. Like, you're at the top of your career with this
Mhm.
huge runway in front of you, like nothing but green, as Matthew McConaughey says, nothing but green lights.
Yeah.
And you're walking away, like you're literally quitting to go volunteer in Southeast Asia. Like, what? Are you out of your mind? And then, of
Mhm.
course, fast forward 6 years later, I did it again. And for me, it was just like I had this hole in my heart, Mark. And I think you can probably relate to this. Is like I was out there, I was making an impact. But my impact was making richer people richer, essentially. right?
Yeah.
I was working my tail off. Like I was working, 100-hour weeks, which translates, if anyone's not counting, like those are like 14, 16-hour days repeatedly. Um,
Mhm.
and I just didn't have this satisfaction. And I kept trying to fake it because I was like, oh, I'll just push through this. Like, there weren't programs like PSYFI or, books like Personal Socrates out there at that time to help.
Sure.
And I was looking for answers, and I was going to therapy and doing all the things, but nothing was working, man. And I just remember there were numerous mornings, Mark, and I can remember this as vividly as watching something on in a movie. Cold New York morning. I'm standing on the subway tracks. I'm waiting to take the train to work. And I'm just standing literally on the edge of the subway tracks. And I would be looking at the train coming in at like 50 miles an hour. And I was sitting there and I was in pain, Mark. Like people say, like, oh, they had a bad day, a bad week. Like I was having bad months, bad years. Like every hour was a struggle for me to get through. And thank God my godmother was there to help me through this. But like every hour was just heart wrenching, gut turning, headache driving. I was getting like sick every, let's say, like 6 weeks, where I would have to literally be in bed for 2 to 3 days because I was so stressed out and so overwhelmed and so burnt out. And there's many mornings where I'd literally hang 1 foot over the subway tracks, and I was like, "Dude, all you have to do is lean in. If you
Yeah.
lean in, all this pain goes away." And it was pain that I couldn't solve, right? As an analytical, intelligent, educated person, it wasn't something I could just get rid of, and it was literally rotting me from the inside out. So on the surface, everyone would look at me and be like, "David, you're crushing it. You got this amazing life." And I wouldn't tell anyone because I'm a man. Of course, I can't share my feelings with anyone at that time. But on inside, I was absolute. It was a facade. I was crumbling. I was hollow. I was empty. And I mean, there were many mornings where I literally came inches to taking my life on the New York City subway tracks. And the only reason I didn't do it is because I was raised by a single mother. Whew, I still get emotional thinking about this. Um, and I wouldn't do that to my mom.
Mm.
I wouldn't put that on her. And so that was the only reason, because I was willing to get rid of everything else in my life, all the money, all the fame, all the fortune, all the success, all the relationships, everything, because the pain was too much. And this was a year and a half of that. And so that's why I started sci-fi, was because I realized I can't be the only man out there doing this. Like I followed this societal blueprint that I was told, like, all these things and you'll be happy, fulfilled, content, you'll be joyous. And I did all those things and I got none of that. The only thing I got was more stuff. And I had the resume life. If you looked at my life, it looked amazing on paper, but like I said, inside I was crumbling and empty. And so
Were
yeah,
you able
that
to
put
speak to your mother about, like, at that time, did she know at all?
No, I wouldn't put the only person, literally the only 2 people knew. My girlfriend at the time knew, and then my godmother knew. I wouldn't tell any, and this is the stigma that I was under that I still think is strong today in 2025, is that I wouldn't put that on my mom, right? Like I wasn't,
Yeah.
I know you're a parent, I'm not a parent, but I can't imagine your kid coming to you and being like, "Hey, I'm struggling with suicidal depression." Wait, what? You want to kill yourself? Like, I don't even know what that would do to someone. I don't even know how a parent could handle that. So for me,
Yeah.
I was doing all the right stuff, like holding this in. I was doing all the work on my own, going to therapy and talking with, I had a therapist I was seeing twice a week. I was talking to my godmother literally every day, sometimes almost every hour. But I would not, nobody knew. I was stoic on the outside because that's what I was taught. I was born in an immigrant Italian family in a New York ghetto. So like you don't talk about that stuff. Like you don't talk about feelings. You don't talk about what's going on. Even
Mhm.
my girlfriend, I would talk to pretty openly with her about it, but I knew there was a certain thing that I would hold back because I didn't want to be seen as weak in the eyes of a woman.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate you being, open, to reshare that period of your life, because I obviously can tell, even with the emotion, that it's probably will never be easy. I mean, it's those are the rock bottom moments. And uh, it reminds me of, I'm sure you know this individual as well, Jerry Colonna. Uh,
I don't know if I know that
he's
name.
he's been on the show a few times, and it makes me think how many individuals have had those same thoughts on those same subway tracks. So Jerry's backstory, really quickly, is back in the internet boom. He was one of the founders of Flatiron Ventures, which I
Mhm.
think at that time, the kind of the, I guess you'd call like Web 2.0 at this point. It was the venture cap firm in New York that was like basically funding the rise of the internet. So kind of a lot of what you described, like on the outside, things looked fantastic, but there was a lot of hollowness and emptiness, and had those same thoughts on the subway track. And for him, it was his kids, flashed in front of his mind as well. So it's just, I think we need, I share that because I think it's so important that you continue to share that story, because there's a lot of people, even present day, that are probably having those same thoughts, right? And to show that, and we'll get into it, to show that there is another path, there is a journey on the other side of that, even though in the moment, obviously, feels like there isn't, right? And I'm so like, I know you said you're just the kind of the stereotypical male, not sharing emotion and talking about this stuff. You were still going to therapy 2 times a week, and I
Yeah.
think Jerry too was going to therapy, quite frequently. So like, what was it then that what allowed you to break through, or why was it the therapy, I guess, not keeping you from stepping off the tracks, or onto the tracks, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, so that's where I have a highly analytical brain, right? I'm a scientist, so it's like, okay, let's put the white lab coat on, let's figure this out.
Yeah,
Because I was doing all the things that psychology and fitness were telling me to do. It's like, go to therapy, journal, talk to someone you love or care about that can understand you. My godmother, me, like I literally would not be here today, Mark, if it wasn't for her. um
wow,
I was going to the gym, I was traveling, I was spending time with friends, like I was doing all the things. Again, these societal blueprints that were given, like the societal blueprint I was first given was, hey, go to college, go to grad school, get a great job, like get the girl, get the car, get the bank account, get the money, and you'll be
yeah,
happy. Followed that one, didn't work. And then when I was dealing with depression, I was following the blueprint that psychology and fitness talked about, and I wasn't getting anywhere fast enough because I was like sitting here going, "Hey man, this stuff works, but like this time horizon is years to handle this. I want to kill myself every day, and I have
yeah,
a
yeah,
chance to do it every single day. I take the subway multiple times a day. Like you just need literally to like." I kept telling myself, I was like, "Dude, all you have to do is lean in. That's it. No one will know you fall and slipped on the tracks. It's like no one's gonna know it's suicide. I wasn't leaving a note or anything like that. Like my godmother would have probably known, but other than her, nobody would have known." And so I realized, I was like, man, there's got to be other guys like me struggling out there. Like, and there's got to be people that are searching, that are killing themselves because they can't find things fast enough that actually work.
mhm,
And then stay in it long enough. So this is one of our other founding principles. Our fourth founding principle is, if it's not fun, we don't do it. Our brains don't do things we don't like long term. And so I've had so many clients that I've worked with over the years that have gone to therapy, and they're like, I hate going to therapy. They're like, I would
yeah,
dread going to therapy every week. And I get excited to see you, David, every week. I'm like, wow, like, thank you so much for that testament to our work together. So for me, it was just, it was funny because I got fired for the first time in my life. So for a year and a half, I hated my job, hated it. I was doing it and I was showing up, but it was obvious. Like, we worked in a small company. I was second in charge. So I'm leading the team. And my boss just comes in one day and she's like, "Hey, we got to talk." And she's like, "Obviously, you're not happy." And I'm like, "Oh, it's that obvious, huh?" And she's good. And she's like, "You're doing great work, but this isn't really working out." And she's like, "Why don't we just go our separate ways at this point?" Right? Because this was a very, like, we had a good relationship. Like, I
yeah,
was literally taking over the company that she spent her whole life building, and so that was a immense level of trust that she gave to me. And I learned so much working for her, and I'm so appreciative of everything that she gave me. But when I quit, got fired,
mhm,
I go back to like when I did this the first time in my career, Mark, I had no idea where I was going. And that's why I didn't, like, my girlfriend at the time was like, "Why don't you just quit? You hate your job." I'm like, "What am I supposed to do? Quit a great 6-figure corner office job and have no idea what I'm doing afterwards?" Like, nobody does that. Like, I live in New York City too. This isn't
yeah,
exactly a cheap city to live in. So after that, and this is where I give my girlfriend credit. At the time, she goes, "What do you want to do today?" I'm like, "I don't really know." She's like, "You're making it too complicated. What do you want to do today?" I was like, "I want to go climbing." She's like, "Go climbing." And so the next day, "What do you want to do?" "I want to go climbing." So I just started spending tons of time at the climbing gym. And what I started realizing was when I engaged in certain, I would say, athletic activities, climbing was the one, where there was
Yeah.
a high risk of like injury and fall and failure. You have to really push yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, that you would start feeling better. Right. And we all know this from going to the gym. We go to the gym, we come back, and endorphins and oxytocin and serotonin, dopamine are raging through our bloodstream and we feel amazing. But I started noticing, like, hey, there's certain things that you can do and say to yourself during these exercises, especially climbing. And there's certain overlaps of these life lessons on the wall that you could take onto the street or in the boardroom or in the classroom or in your house. And so I just started taking notes. And then I
Mm.
figured out what now became the PSYFI system and the B3 methodology of when you start training your brain, body, and breath together, you can start accomplishing things that are absolutely incredible compared to training them separately. And what I started realizing of why things like therapy didn't work for me, or for anything for a lot of people, and why things like just going to the gym by itself didn't work, is because we were training these things separately. And then this big question came up for me, Mark, is like, how can your brain, body, and breath perform at a high level together, which we're doing right now, your audience is also
Yeah.
doing right now, if you train them separately? You go to therapy and you sit there sedentary and talk about your problems, right? Train your brain. Then you go to the gym and you ask your brain to tune out for an hour because you want peace and quiet and you just want to like push yourself. And for me, I'd put like super loud music in so I couldn't even hear my thoughts. And then your breath is involuntary. It's 22,000 times a day it's happening. But again, how can three things perform at a high level together if you train them separately? It just doesn't
Yeah.
work. And that's why I
Mm.
started realizing. And then I said, you know what? Let me start testing this on my friends. And I started giving away these sessions. And these people were getting breakthroughs within, like, I had my original test was like 2 hours. They were getting breakthroughs in 2 hours, like solving problems they couldn't solve for months, years. In 2 hours, they would have it solved. And I was like, man, there's something here, I think. And I started realizing like this thing works. So I started
Yeah.
quantifying it and qualifying it and studying it more and bringing more people in. And then now, we're 7,000 people come through the program. Our efficacy rate is above 98%. So we kind of figured some stuff out.
Yeah. No kidding. But is there also like, is this what brought you to also that brought you to the mountains? Like, I know you're in New York in climbing gyms and stuff like that, but I mean, I know where you live now and you're in one of the most beautiful places in North America when it comes to mountains and so forth in Colorado. Um, is it because I understand the 3 aspects, but I what I'm also hearing is, like, if I think of the climbing, from the onset, it's this sense of trying to accomplish something, like, you're trying to I'm assuming you're trying to be better and better at climbing and figuring out that puzzle, and I think it's Tony Robbins that says this, like, the unlock to happiness is a sense of progress,
Hmm.
and micro moments of progress, right? And it seems like
Yes.
that like, it has to start if I think of everything that you've shared, like, it has to start there. We have to attach some sort of meaning and objective that actually means something to us so that we can, "Okay, I'm here now, but I wanna be at this place, and every day I'm gonna work on it," and then you bring in those other 3 elements. Am I getting that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on my whiteboard here off screen, you can't see it. It says progress equals happiness right on the top. That's the first thing you
Okay.
see when you look at my whiteboard. Literally, progress equals happiness. Um,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. It was when you're going to therapy. So again, I'm not bashing therapy. Like
Yeah, yeah.
therapy has a
It's a
purpose,
tool.
and right, it is a tool. But if I'm being forthright, it doesn't work. I don't think it works for people like me. It didn't, right?
Yeah.
And because part of it is the progress is painstaking, right? Maybe you'll have a breakthrough in one session, then you don't see your therapist for another 3 to 7 days, right? And like, I'm sorry, those 3 to 7 days are gonna, excuse my French, beat
Yeah.
the shit out of you, right? Especially when
Yeah.
in the places that I was in, like I was getting beat up every hour, let alone to
Yeah.
get through days or weeks. And what I started just noticing, I'm like, therapy has all these gaps in it, right? Like the person's just sitting there, you're not moving, you're not breathing, you're taking notes. If you most people don't take notes in therapy, I did. Like your therapist doesn't give you notes for like things to work on or homework or here's an exercise I want you to do or anything like that. And then the progress is so painstaking. And let's be honest, as high performing men, Mark, we're impatient.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
one of our characteristics. Like everyone listening to this, if you're a high performer, you're impatient and you're a control freak. I'm one
Yeah,
of
give
them
me the
too. Like
solutions immediately.
right. So when there's no progress, there can be no happiness. And then of course, we know our brains are negatively biased by evolution. So you're focusing on all the negative stuff in your life already, and now it's amplified because you're not getting the progress you need and you're in a desperation phase or you said the bottom of the barrel and you need something that works now. And
And your self-awareness is heightened. I feel like
yes,
that's the other part people don't talk about. It's like all the even in the mental fitness realm, like all these tools, there's this period where you're like, "Whoa, I'm feeling a lot now because you're not numbing as much as you used to, which no one talks about as I almost wanna say as like a little warning, like, "Hey, just FYI, this is probably gonna happen, totally normal. Don't freak out."
nobody gives you that warning, dude.
I know.
Like
I
nobody.
know.
Nobody tells you like, "Hey, by the way, so, just so you know, the more of this work that you do to try to heal yourself, the more it's going to hurt along the way because you are gonna be more self-aware. You're gonna feel things at a deeper level. You're gonna see things from a wider perspective, and it's gonna freak you the out."
Yeah,
And if you
yeah.
don't have something to fall back to or you don't at least have that notification sent to you, it's gonna make it worse, dude. I trust me, in the last couple of years where I've done some really deep dives into my own work, I've gotten to places where I'm going, "What the I just need a break,
Yeah,
dude. This is too much. Like, too much,
yeah,
too fast. Please give me a break here."
yeah, yeah, totally. Okay, so talk to me okay, so then sci-fi is born obviously out of, need out of yourself first and foremost, and then you start testing it with people you trust, and you're starting to see some amazing results. You relocate, closer to nature or right directly in nature. Um, I know I mean, for anyone seeing any of these clips, like there's a snowboard. Is that a surfboard too in the back?
Yeah, we got a
Um,
surfboard over here, snowboard
s
there, boxing gloves up
helmet.
there, rock climbing
Yeah,
helmet right there. Those are my
totally,
sports.
totally. So I love it, and we obviously get along with a few of those sports as well. Mountain biking, snowboarding are the ones that overlap. The reason I'm bringing this stuff up is because there's a topic that you've shared with me recently, and I'm pretty sure you've either done the talk or you've been exploring the talk with on the TEDx side of things or in other platforms. But just this whole idea of and listeners, please hold your gas because I'm gonna say it out loud that escaping to the mountains is killing us. I'm like, wow! I remember when you first said that even to me, I mean, I live on the East Coast, so our mountains are more like mounds when it comes to, what you're used to in the West, but still, there are mountains, and I was just there last night in freezing temperatures, and even despite that, just felt great to be on the mountain. So, when I first heard you say that, I was almost personally offended in a way. So, can you explain that a little bit? Because it does weave in and I think kinda come full circle to, with everything that you've shared so far and a lot of the work that you're doing, with the team at Sci-Fi.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you were personally offended by it first because that's the reaction I want from people because I'm like this is such a blind spot for all of us mountain loving athletes. This is
Yeah.
such a blind spot, right? So we look at mental health and escapism, and we usually associate the common things, right? Drugs, alcohol, porn, internet, sex, right? The things that are
Mhm.
easily addictive, the things that we turn to, like as you said, numb ourselves. And I've been, trust me, been there, done that. I've seen the bottom of many bottles, right? I've gone down the depths of like all these addictions. So I'm very familiar with them. But what we don't realize is that that is a form of escapism, but so is athletic endeavors if we have the wrong intention underneath of them, right?
Mm.
So, I
Yeah,
know
'cause it's
both
a
you and I work.
replacement.
Yeah, both you and I like to
Yeah.
work out, and I've been working out for gosh, 32 years, 33 years now in the gym. Like I've been a gym rat for over 3 decades. I love it. But what I realized is that a lot of us go to the gym to escape, right? We put our headphones in. I put like some heavy metal in really loud. I'm just like, rah, give me an hour
Yeah.
of like just testosterone. But I'm escaping what I'm leaving behind, right? I'm escaping the problems with my relationships, the problems with my spirituality, the problems with my job. And when I come back, they're still there. This is
Yeah.
the old phrase of, no matter where you go, there you are. So what
Mhm.
I started to realize, I've been living up here in Summit County. I live in Copper Mountain, so I live literally right on the resort. And what I've realized in living here in 3 years is that a lot of people up here are engaging in escapism. Now, of course, it's Colorado, so we have drug escapism, and there's huge amounts of alcohol in Summit County. So just to give you an idea, like Summit County is a paradise. People travel from all over the world to come here, and we have 5 times the national average of suicides. We have
Wow.
3 times the national average of anxiety, right? Report, and these are reported, by the way. So we also
Yeah, yeah.
know as
Much
scientists,
higher.
those are underreported, right?
Yeah.
So you sit here and go, how the hell is it possible that you can live in paradise with access to like the best out? I mean, I literally live in the middle of the Rockies, like access to all the outdoor stuff I want. And yet people are still killing themselves at an alarming rate. People are drugging and drinking at an alarming rate. And I was like, well, what's going on is that we're escaping to the mountains. That's what, even if you want to bring this back historically, like anthropologically, our ancestors, Mark, pushed out west. Those were the crazy
Mhm.
ones to like explore out west and go to uncharted territories. So like we still have that inside of us. Us people that come out west, we still have that thing inside of us. And what I started realizing is that we're escaping, but we're using the mountains as our escapism. So it doesn't seem as bad. I'm not drinking, I'm not drugging, I'm not porn, I'm not, addicted, but I go out in the mountains and I'm pushing myself super hard and I'm getting injured. I'm dealing with an injury right now, right? I'm just looking for personal bests or PRs or FKTs or like to tick all the 14ers off. And I'm like, you're still escaping. That's why when you come back home, you're dealing with all the same demons. You're not getting rid of them. And what I realized, and this is actually a tout on the B3, is like the B3 brain body breath is integrative. That's what it really is. I mean, we both know this is the more that you integrate, the healthier you're going to be. Well, what I realize is that the mountains, nature in general, always wants to heal us. This is why we always feel better when we go out for a walk, right? Or we go for a
Yeah.
hike or a bike or a snowboard or a surf. Nature has an inherent, scientifically validated mission to heal us. This is why the Japanese have known this for thousands of years, why forest bathing has been in their culture literally for thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
You go in nature, and scientifically speaking, if you're acidic, which is when you're stressed out and high beta, right? You're pumping adrenaline and cortisol, your body's acidic. You get into nature, and nature has its default is to live in symbiosis with everything in it. So as soon as you come into nature, it tries to heal you. It's trying to make you more alkaline, right? It's literally trying to balance the pH that you have. And it's trying to do that whether or not you're paying attention. But if you just go in there to send harder, push farther, go faster, you're missing out on it. So my
Mm.
contention is to say, hey, listen, I'm not saying don't go in the mountains anymore. God knows I would be losing my mind if I didn't snowboard and rock climb, right? But let's go into the mountains with a little bit of intention and let's slow down for a minute. So those of us that are skiers and snowboarders, like instead of bombing through the trees on a pow day when it's let's be honest, it's incredible. Pause for 2 minutes and just look around at the trees. Hear the deafening silence of the snow. Look around the beautiful white canopy that's around you, right? Take that in. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because I know I
Yeah.
feel better when I do that. And do that for literally 2 minutes and let nature heal you just for a moment. And you can still
Mm.
enjoy the gnar and the shred and all that kind of stuff, but just let it heal you for a moment and see what happens. See what happens with that intention. See how nature wants to make you better. And then if you go into the mountains every time you're doing that, you're also experiencing something we call awe. AWE, right? There's a lot of research that's been over the last 2 years has come out about awe that says if you can entertain awe every day, you're going to be happier, healthier, you're going to live longer. And awe is simply looking around and appreciating something that is magical. Trees that have been there for hundreds of years, mountains that have been there for millions of years, right? Snow that is so temporal, it may be gone tomorrow. Sit
Yeah.
there and be in awe for a moment, just literally 2 minutes, and watch it heal yourself. And then all of a sudden, you don't escape to the mountains anymore. You integrate with them, and talk about getting like a magic pill of happiness and of like
Oh,
contentment and joy. Boom, dude. It's there all day waiting for us.
well, it's just a it's a healthier, and I feel like what nature intends us to have as a relationship with that environment versus in a way, like, so funny you mentioned just like PRs and like just pushing through. Like as soon as you said that, I was thinking I was on the lift with one guy I didn't know. He just kind of popped on yesterday, and like, immediately, he's like, "Yeah, I just got these new skis, and it's so nice because it was so cold outside." It was like it was pretty flat, and there wasn't a lot of people in the hills. So he's like, "I am just flying," and he's like, I could tell just by when he would end up at the bottom at the lift, and when I was ending up, I'm like, "This guy is really going quick," and I'm like, "What? Like, why are you rushing?" And to your point of, like, because it's hard to pick up and feel that awe, right? Like, I'm not saying, like, whatever, and I don't wanna judge either, like, maybe that's what he needed in that moment, but, it was just so obvious, or it was so kind of in my face around just it's like you're on the mountain, crushing the mountain like you wanna crush email, you know, to, like,
Yes.
it just felt like that. Versus like it was snowing beautiful. It was cold, obviously, but like there was nice snow, and it was just like it was calm. It was quiet out there, and I don't know. At least that was my experience, and I'm guilty of the opposite as well, all the time. But to your point, I think like if we can just go in with some different intentions, and I like how you're alluding to even just a couple minutes of
That's
trying
it, man.
on that different programming, then, you slow it down a little bit, and, slowly but surely you can have just a better, experience or healthier experience. Is there
Yeah.
anything
And that
else that you find helpful? And just, I guess the question would be, how we can reframe our relationship or have a healthier relationship with nature, and, finally kind of get rid of some of that escapism.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to look at it, Mark. Like, one, let's be honest, we're all guilty of just going out there and wanting to crush, right? And because like, we don't compartmentalize well. For those of us that are, for those of you that are listening and think you compartmentalize well, I'm sorry, the research says you don't. None of us do.
Yeah.
So you can't sit here and go, I'm going to be this like high level entrepreneur, this like super CEO, and I'm going to crush my email and crush my day. And then I'm going to go on the mountain and all of a sudden be this Zen Buddhist that like is super chill. No, you're going to go on the mountain and you're going to be like, I want to get like 10 runs in, and I want to get at
Yeah.
least three runs in, and I want to land those 4 tricks that I'm working on. You have a tick list. Like I do too. I had it this year before I got injured. I was like, I want to accomplish these tricks this year. Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is one is like, I'm not saying don't, again, no black and white, right? None of this
Yeah.
bifurcated thinking. It's like, you don't have to do an always or never. Just like maybe
Yeah.
a few of the runs, just go slower a little bit. Right. Right, like, go in the, like I said, go in the trees are the best place. Like, for those of us that are
Yeah.
more advanced, go in the trees and just sit there for stop. Like, even on a pow day is the best because the snow's coming down, the evergreens are holding the snow, it's, like, super quiet. Take 2 minutes, trust me, man, you're not missing much. You're not missing that many runs in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's one of them, is literally like, just stop. Like, I'm guilty of this because I mean, I live in the Rockies. Like, I see people taking pictures all the time, right? And I'm just bombing away sometimes. And then I happen to stop and I go, yeah, this is pretty freaking epic. I'm surrounded by 13 and 14,000 foot mountains. Like, wow.
Yeah.
So sometimes just like stop, be a tourist for a minute, even if it's your home mountain. I literally live on the mountain. So I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not a tourist, but like, be a tourist every once in a while. Take a moment and just look at the mountain. Don't just strap in and go, right? Or when you get to the top of a climb, for example, take it in. Because what I was talking about this last night in my men's group, one of the things that we were always after is that outcome, right? And we think
Mhm.
the outcome is going to make us happy, right? Just like I did in my career. When I get all the money, when I get the girl, the corner office, all the things, I'll be happy. You know, like they call it, Brene Brown calls it foreboding joy. You put joy
Yeah.
out and like you'll get there eventually, but it's like the carrot in front of the horse on a stick. So, one, it's like just sometimes slow down, right?
Slow down. Yeah. Yeah.
Stop, be a tourist. One of the things you can do is like, I'll do this, and this is actually part of our sci-fi system without going too far into it, is set an intention for your day, right? So my intention for 2025 is to be smooth in everything I do. Another way to do this is, and this is going into our sci-fi system a little bit, is going, hey, you know what, that, like, think of the challenge you have in your life right now, like the problem you're trying to solve, like, oh, that client I'm trying to, get them to unlock, or I'm trying to get this other, person to sign on with me, or I'm, trying to have this difficult conversation with my kid or my partner. Put that in your head before you go out, and then forget about it. Because what you're going to do is you're going to program your reticular activating system, your RAS, and it's going to go find the solutions for you. But don't think
Mhm.
about it while you're on the mountain. Go out and just have fun and release the dopamine and the serotonin and the adrenaline and the oxytocin and the anandamide. And afterwards, when you're done, ask yourself the question again. Hey,
Yeah.
what can I
Yeah.
do about that conversation? If like, and this, our sci-fi system is proven to give you this 98% of the time, but like most likely you're going to have a different perspective because of the body change that you underwent. And this is the integration of the brain, the body, and the breath, right?
Totally.
So
Totally.
that's
Yeah. I've
another way
seen
is
that.
like, yeah, give yourself a question. I mean, you shared this with me a couple weeks ago, Mark. You're like, yeah, I just went out and forgot about everything, and then you came back and you had all these solutions to your problems at the end of the day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
awesome, dude, that's it. Like
Yeah.
nature is waiting for us to do that. We just have
Yeah.
to be a little bit more intentional and slow down just a tad. It's like,
Totally.
don't stop. I'm never going to stop being in the mountain. I want to be in the mountains until I'm dead is my goal.
Yeah.
But let's start
Yeah.
using them in a way that they can actually help us as opposed to harm us.
Well said. Well said. I think the other thing that, like, as you're explaining that, the other thing that came to mind too is even if you don't, live in the mountains full time, and I've experienced this personally with mountain biking, like you can bottle up the mountains and let's just say nature in general if you really activate all the senses. Like to this day, if I walk into a place and smell evergreens or just like the alpine, I'm immediately brought back to mountain biking above the alpine in the Rockies in British Columbia and Alberta. And there's just I can even just explain it or describe it to you. I can feel my body back in that like there's this temperature to the air. It's kind of like a kind of a crispness to it. The air is so pure. There's a scent to it, and then I see this like stunning landscape in front of me while I'm on a bike, right? And like you can, or I at least can go back there in a moment where you feel like your mind is out of control or the day is out of control, right? Like you can give yourself that, like, like uncap the bottle and go right back into the Rockies or whatever that is for you, right? And it's a way to live on, but it starts with exactly what you're saying. Like you have to get that, you have to slow down, set an intention, and like really be there, right? So, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
I
that's,
realize
I mean,
we're almost at time here, so I wanna
okay.
respect your time. I don't wanna I wanna make sure
No, we're
that,
we're we're good actually, so we can go a little over. I'm
okay,
okay
coo
to, because like, this is
okay,
something I'm
cool.
obviously
Let
passionate about. And I want to just comment quickly on what you said, Mark,
yeah,
is like, this is the magic sauce that most of us are missing, right? We know through studying neuroscience that if you want to implant a memory, if you want to remember something better, the best way to do that is to assign emotion to it. Well, if you're just speeding through your time in the mountains, you don't have time to actually take it in and process it, let alone assign an emotion to it. Therefore,
yeah,
you are going to forget it faster, right? And this is the thing about like why I call it the pursuit of more, why all of us as high performers want more and more and more and more and more. Like we never stop, right?
Yeah.
Because we're literally not getting the full doses of what we put in front of us. So if you do stop for 2 minutes and take a few breaths, right, and look around and get some awe, you're going to integrate that emotion into the experience. And just like you said, you have this olfactory sense, which is the most powerful memory trigger we have, by the way.
Mm.
If you can catch that, dude, you could be sitting in your office in Toronto, in Ontario, and like close your eyes for 5 minutes and be right back there. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to go out there and then come back into your office and go, all right, cool. Now I feel great. Let's go. Like now I have more
Yeah,
energy, more
totally.
focus. Yeah. So why are we depriving ourselves of this, guys? Why are we
Yeah.
depriving ourselves? Because nobody taught us this. We were taught
Yeah.
to go hard, char, tick all the boxes, want more, go faster, go bigger, and then do it again the next day. And like,
Yeah.
well, what if we just slow down just a tad? Like just to be a little bit more mindful, integrate into these beautiful things that are trying to heal us, whether it's the ocean, whether it's the mountains, whether it's the desert, whether wherever your special place is. Like for me, it's the ocean and the mountains. Man, those places want to heal you. They want to take away your stress and anxiety and depression and sadness and all of it. It literally wants to do that. It's been designed to do that. Let it do it instead of paying and paying for all these things and then escaping. We're wasting time and
Mhm.
money, which are two valuable resources.
Yeah. Yeah. I I do wanna some of the final questions I have for you are around just practical tools, and I think coming kind of full circle or helping continue the conversation we're having right now around, like, how do we talked about being in the moment and setting some intentions and like you said, we can close our eyes and go back there. But I'm just curious, what in your own regular routine, what are some of the practices or rituals or tools that you use consistently to help your mind slow down a little bit and help just deal with regular life stuff that we're all faced with day in and day out, right? There's like no shortage of that happening nonstop. So I love
Mhm.
to know what's in your, I guess, your toolkit right now as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest ones, it's winter out here and we're in this Arctic blast. So like yesterday, it was -33 up here, and that's Fahrenheit, by the way, not Celsius, just so we're all
Ooh,
tracking right. Yeah, that's cold.
yeah,
So one of the things that I do is I love cold exposure. So I have a river that they thankfully runs in front of my condo, but obviously it's frozen. So what I do now is I stand on my balcony in the morning. So I do about
yeah,
three
no kidding.
minutes. First thing in the morning, it's just me and my boxer briefs, and I'm taking in the sun. So that's really great for your eyes and for your sleep cycles, your circadian rhythm. And then I just sit there and I just take like literally it was what was it -7 this morning when I was out there.
Yeah,
So I last about 2 to 3 minutes before I can't feel anything. But that's a really good one because you're sitting there having to breathe. Like you, in order to
yeah,
calm your central nervous system down when you're doing cold exposure training, whether it's a cold plunge or cold air or cryotherapy, you have to slow down and breathe. So
hmm,
that one I love to do. That's one of my favorites. It's also like for us high performers like to push ourselves a bit. Yeah, it's painful and you're pushing yourself. So it's another kind of like it's task oriented. Oh, if I can get my 3 minutes in, right? Because some of us are like that. So that's a big one for me. Another one, and this is you would think this would be more inherent for me, but it's only really happened over the last year, is sometimes just going for a walk, Mark. Just going
oh
for like a
yeah,
5 to 10 minute walk. Just get outside of your house, get outside of your office. Like, again, nature wants to heal you, even if it is like the nature of the city or the nature of like a little trail or something. It doesn't have to always be full blown send mountains or oceans or mountain biking. So, like, literally, just people get out for 5 to 10 minutes, take a walk. Trust me, you have the time. You have the time.
yeah,
Don't make a phone call. Don't check your email. Give your brain a break. They've proven this, through neuroscience with working in ultradian rhythms of how you allow your brain to be on, then off. Give yourself the off time and integrate the brain and body into it, the brain, body, and breath into it by going for a little walk. That's one I love to do.
yeah.
And then I
Well,
love
just on
meditation.
that, David,
Yeah.
like, I know the science supports it, but what I can say now, with 400 plus interviews, it is the most consistent practice that comes up with high performers and people that I would say have just brilliant minds and just brilliant thinkers. That seems, and what I love about it, it seems so simple because it is. Um, and just it's almost laughable how simple it is, right? Like a 10-minute walk after lunch or something outside. But to your point, no podcast, no audiobook, or like just
Just
pay attention.
yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're hearing this from all your other guests too, because I'm gonna be honest with you, Mark, and this is where I learned through experience, and I'm one of the kind of people that learns through, doing things the wrong way a lot and like the hard way. So I blew
Yeah.
off the walk for so long. I literally was having like struggling at one point where and this was when I was living up here, and I'm looking outside my windows, and my windows I overlook like something out of like a screensaver background essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, "Dude, just go outside and just go out and walk." And I'm like, "No, no, gotta work harder, gotta do things more, get things done. It's got a work day." And I blew it off for so long, and now it's part of my daily, dude. I have to do it at least. And again, it's 5 minutes. And I go to
Yeah.
quote Tony Robbins, if you don't have 5 minutes, you don't have a life.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
there's my
Totally.
challenge for your listeners is like, hey, if you don't think you have time, you don't have a life. And this can be such a small thing to do. Small
Yeah.
thing to do.
Amazing. All right, man. I've taken enough of your time. We could obviously continue forever. Maybe we'll have to do a part two, and people probably hear from both of us in the near future, given everything we're working on. But last question for you, and that's just, if you think of the year ahead of you, like what just truly lights you up?
Man, honestly, Mark, there's two things that light me up. One, and this is the reason why I started sci-fi, is that I don't ever want another human being to go through what I went through. In my darkest moments, they were dark, and statistics show that most people don't make it out of that dark place. So one,
Yeah.
I am just ridiculously excited to help more people this year. I know that this is going to be a big year for both of us. We've talked about this numerous times. I think we're going to have a larger impact with people. So I can't wait to share this wisdom that I've picked up along the way through scars. Like I have all the mental, physical, and emotional scars to prove it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I can't wait. And then also, I can't wait to work with amazing people like you and collaborating on some cool projects, man. Like there are some things that are coming up in 2025 for us that like to get to work with cool people who are as passionate about the things that we are, like psychology and fitness, for example, mindset training, state training, helping people. That's what it's all about, man. That stuff. I'm a hardline extrovert, so it gets me jazzed to work with people like you,
Yeah.
dude.
Oh, I mean, right back at you. It is a beautiful feeling when you find your tribe, and real, like the real
Yes.
tribe, people that are like very much in it for the right reasons, have gone through their own struggles and so forth. And to your point, like I'm the same way. Like I'm tired of and myself included, like just seeing so much mental struggle out there, when I'm not saying what we do is the end all be all, but it's a huge factor. And it for us personally, we've seen it with our clients and our work. The science is there as well, and it's catching up, I find, to what you see
Yeah.
happening in the real world, which is nice. So it's like whatever we can do to have more impact and faster, because we can't just sit back and wait. Like literally people are dying, and there's even more people just living at like half potential. And I just think we deserve more than that. So a
Thank
huge
God,
thanks,
yes.
brother, for what you do day in and day out, for making some time for this show, and again, just your drive and everything that you put out into this world. I'm excited for the journey ahead. So thank you.
Yeah, likewise, Mark. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for allowing me to share our passions together on this platform. And thanks to all the listeners. Like I said, take some of this stuff out. Mark and I are both about being efficient with this. It's like these little tools that we talk about, they're real. It's not some kind of book bullshit that we picked up along the
Yeah.
way. Like these are things that we integrate in our lives every single day that actually make a difference. And I would love to hear that, some of you took one of these tools and come out and go, you know what? They were right. That walk, oh my gosh, I'm doing it every day now. And I feel so much better. I'm so much happier. My life is so much more fulfilled. And I was doing it in this little tiny little way.
Well said.
Hi, I'm Chris Gethard, and I'm very excited to tell you about Beautiful Anonymous, a podcast where I talk to random people on the phone. I tweet out a phone number, thousands of people try to call. You talk to one of them, they stay anonymous, I can't hang up, that's all the rules. I never know what's going to happen. We get serious ones. I've talked with meth dealers on their way to prison. I've talked to people who survived mass shootings. Crazy funny ones. I talked to a guy with a goose laugh, somebody who dresses up as a pirate on the weekends. I never know what's going to happen. It's a great show. Subscribe today, Beautiful Anonymous.
If you love chilling mysteries, unsolved cases, and a touch of mom-style humor, Moms and Mysteries is the podcast you've been searching for. Hey guys, I'm Mandy.
And I'm Melissa. Join us every Tuesday for Moms and Mysteries, your gateway to gripping, well-researched true crime stories. Each week, we deep dive into a variety of mind-boggling cases as we shed light on everything from heists to whodunits. We're your go-to podcast for mysteries with a motherly touch. Subscribe now to Moms and Mysteries wherever you get your podcasts.